plans following us. So it's very important to ensure that during that journey map, what Jane talked about, we are testing also the acceptance. So I'd like to ask all of us to help me recognize the speaker, and a round of applause for them as we are asking them to a great insight that have been taken into account. We'd like to invite the next set of the next group of panelists. We'll invite them to come on front. We have a representative from the development partners, and they are going to give us also some of the insights on the development partner perspective. We believe that we talked a lot about PPP, public-private partnership, but actually shouldn't be triple P, should be 4 Ps, because development partners also are bringing also other perspectives. They are bringing experience, but also bringing, they are very instrumental to sharing what has been, what was a success in some of in their countries, and share some of those experience also here. So on the front, we have David Rwangirwa, ICT education specialist at USAID. We have Eva Paul. She's a project manager at the German Development Bank. And we have John Hill, is a project manager at KOICA. We're going to, starting by David, to ask them to share some of the perspective as development partners who come to support the effort of the government, this great initiative that we want to pull off, and what will be some of the insights that you as a development partner would like to share with us, not only to make it a success, but also to ensure that we actually reach the objective. During the road, while using the road, we don't go off. So I'd like to invite David, and I'll be followed by Eva and also by Jong, and they'll give their respective perspective from the respective organization they are representing today. David, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Didier. Good afternoon, everyone. At the onset of 50 years that USAID has been doing development, we looked at the way forward. Now, I'm glad that I'm speaking from the perspective of a development partner, but also being a Rwandan, I have both perspectives. The perspective of the government of Rwanda and also the perspective of the US government for USAID. So at the onset of 50 years, USAID laid down a way forward strategy that we have called USAID Forward. And USAID Forward is based on 3 pillars, which I have seen being reflected in the discussions that we've had in this room. The first pillar is managing for results. And we see ICT as a driving force to enable us to manage for results. So looking at how do you measure managing for results, how do you monitor your performance in as far as implementing these projects is concerned. The other pillar is implementing procurement reform, which is about partnerships and supporting solutions that come from the grassroots, from the people, supporting efforts that are people-driven. And this is a theme that we have seen in our discussions, that as we are creating a Smart Rwanda, Smart East African region, Smart Africa, Smart Universe, we are focusing on people. We are creating solutions that are driven by the people. And the other pillar of the USAID Forward is innovation, science, and technology. And USAID realizes that science, technology, and innovation can really propel the agenda. It can enable the development agenda to really achieve results in a fashion that has not been possible in the past. So achieving speed, efficiency, and economies of scale. And again, we have seen that these are themes that we have been talking about, developing solutions. I especially liked the session where we got around tables and actually created solutions. And so when we look at these solutions that have been created for the quick wins, where we are headed going forward, looking at smart agriculture, for example, USAID has been partnering with the government of Rwanda to think about methods of improving the agriculture sector. And so the representative of the smart agriculture talked about the e-soko, and USAID has been partnering with the Ministry of Agriculture and other development partners to come up with a midterm strategy of the market information systems. And when you look at the smart health sector, USAID is among the key partners in the health sector, and we have supported, for example, the logistics management information system that oversees the distribution of drugs and commodities in the health sector, and also the human resource management information system. The team that talked about the record, the human personnel management information system and the medical record information system. These are sectors that USAID has been working in, and as we look forward, we plan to continue partnering with the government of Rwanda and other development partners to enhance such sectors. Education is another sector that USAID works in, and as we were looking at solutions like supporting English program, we continue working with the Rwanda Education Board, for example, to train teachers and come up with smart solutions like the interactive audio instruction, where teachers actually listen to best practices, where teachers are using the English language in a standard way. So teachers in Rwanda will be able to listen to other teachers that have been using English for a long time and actually be able to copy these best practices. And so with that, I think this is a good way to start, and together we will move the Smart Rwanda vision forward, and we are stakeholders in this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And let me start by saying that I think it's very challenging to be talking at this time. One, because all the really interesting and really important things have already been said. Second, because I'm no IT expert. And third, because everybody's already looking forward to the reception and is wondering when it's going to start. But probably let me just give you a few ideas from my side, from KfW, and from our experience of working with the government of Rwanda as the German Financial Corporation. One thing that we've seen is that it's very important to keep the momentum to actually make the ideas into something tangible. And I think that's sometimes the more challenging part than actually coming up with the ideas. And as a development bank, that's obviously at the heart of what we do, is try to actually implement something on the ground. And I think it's the same for our colleagues from the World Bank, but I think this is something we should really keep in focus, especially because the government officials in the government of Rwanda are extremely busy at most times and are caught up in many things, and will probably not get as much time to focus on ICT enabling environments in their day-to-day jobs as they could afford to do in the past 2 days. Second, from a development bank point of view, and it has been said before, and I can only emphasize it, for us what's important is that the people are at the center of the solution and the citizens are at the center of the solution. I don't think I need to go more in depth on that, but part of the people solution is also that you will require the right human resources, and I think a lot of development partners are putting a lot of effort into building up these human resources. A third issue is not to forget existing technologies that we might consider less fashionable today. We've been hearing a lot about mobile devices, we've been hearing a lot about smartphones, but I would think that in Rwanda one of the technologies that's actually really useful and that will remain very, very useful for a considerable amount of time to come is the radio. And I think solutions that focus on using the radio for example, transmitting information. We've been talking a lot about transmitting information in the solution session, and I think the radio is actually an excellent way to do that. Let me just tell you very briefly the areas that KfW is working in Rwanda. One is governance and decentralization, another one is public financial management, and the remaining two are TVET, skills development, and financial sector development. And I think in all these areas that we are active in, there's a lot to be done with ICT enabling solutions. And we are mainly focusing on making systems more transparent. I think we've been talking a lot about that, providing information to the people. It's about getting the people to participate in shaping their development, in shaping the solutions they have, especially on the communication between central and local governments, and also making the government more accountable to their citizens through various ICT-enabled solutions. One ICT solution that has been supported, for example, with the German corporation is for Transparency International in order to report corruption incidences in the country via SMS solutions. And last but not least, also service delivery of local governments to their population is truly very, very important to us, and we're looking into supporting this area. And let me close this by saying that also as development banks, I think we've learned a lot about making use making better use of ICT ourselves and being better ourselves at being transparent and making data available to everybody around. And KfW has subscribed to the International Aid Transparency Initiative and is also trying their best to actually become more transparent themselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eva. Koika has supported this sector since 2006 by annual ICT department establishment project. And then we have following project, we supported IP architecture kilo, and then we established IT department there. As you see, the Koika's focus is producing ITC equipped personnel and then infrastructure and e-government in ICT. So Koika has an ongoing project with collaboration with the RDB and ICT enhancing ICT innovation capacity in Rwanda, which aim to facilitate the area by building infrastructure, equipping Rwanda people with IT skills, and providing business incubation services for those who want. In addition, we have two other projects in mind. And first one is ICT-based capacity building of public officials, and then the other one is to support Rwanda's e-tax and custom system. Then with ICT project, we have a number of IT volunteers in various schools and government agencies, and then we also provide ICT invitation training for the development of ICT in Rwanda. We are very proud of being a partner of Rwanda ICT development, and I wish that we will have a more concrete cooperation with our beloved partner in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all of our panelists for the insight. They've shared some of the areas where they're already supporting the government of Rwanda in different perspectives and in the different sectors of our economy. And I think one thing that came again in this panel is we need to focus on result. So not really on processes, but keeping focus on achieving the result, but also focusing on the people. So again, those two need to go hand in hand, and considering using also some of the very basic technologies which should help us reach better the people we are serving, like radio and like mobile phone. So radio is still very widely used and listened in our countries, in many countries in Africa. So it's probably one of the best way today to communicate and to share information. But also mobile phone, the very basic mobile phone is a very instrumental tool today to reach again the same audience. They have been already supporting, and we will be continuing to engage, and especially with the Smart Rwanda Vision, and as we're building more and more momentum around the Smart Rwanda objectives and the quick wins, as well as the short-term and long vision, we know that the role of development partners is very key. So we obviously look forward to engage more and more and to have more synergies going forward. Thank you very much. I would like to again appreciate the panelists. Thank you again. So we're going to go to the last set of panelists, and those are coming from the private sector. We would like to hear from them on what will be the most effective way on the private sector perspective to reach the objectives. We talked about some of the enablers which require a very strong engagement of the private sector, not only as suppliers, but also people as also on the side of the investment. Some of those enablers are extremely important to take off all those good plans we talked about today. We talked about some quick wins on the smart solutions. We've identified them, and they have, government is not good at actually doing business. So at the end, whichever line of this chain, they will have to be either contracted or they'll take the lead. I remember the picture that was displayed yesterday here by Jacob with the public on the lead, and the private sector was. And I remember very well the comment of Minister that the private sector actually should be switched. Private sector should be on the front, so government just concentrate in providing you an enabling environment that will help you achieve those objectives. So we have we have 4 panelists. Starting from the right, we have Agnes Gataya from the public sector. She's public sector director at SAP East Africa. We have Lucy Mbabazi, business leader, emerging market solution at Visa Rwanda. We have Patrick Kabagema. He is the chairman of the ICT chamber in Rwanda. So I think it will also give some of the local perspective, because you deal with it on a daily basis. And we have at the end, on the left, we have Mesfin Makonnen, Enterprise Group General Manager for Rest of Africa. Rest of Africa, correct? Yeah. So he's the managing director. So we have quite a blend of here in front of large corporate companies, but also local through our private sector federation. So we're going to start with Agnes. She'll start with some of the perspective on the side of SAP. Floor is yours, Agnes.
I have a couple of slides up that we'll just walk through. So in terms of the last 2 days, let me just start by commenting about that. My colleagues and I have been talking, and the words that come to mind are innovative, alive, ambitious, and may I add, audacious. That's what our perspective living here of Smart Rwanda Days is. I think it provides us as Africa a unique opportunity to move away from siloed or sector-based ICT planning for development. When we look at the building that has been put together with all the different pillars, and we look at smart girls, for example, planning for smart girls in isolation without looking at smart healthcare, smart education, smart infrastructure, smart business, is what we have always done. Now Rwanda has come up with a new paradigm where we look at everything and build the house from the foundation up together. The duplication we've been talking about and the systems we have been talking about that have been built in isolation will be a thing of the past. And I think this provides not only Africa but the world a new paradigm of thinking in terms of development. What I think we need to do here is ensure, this really brave idea actually does happen. So we move from talking about it, and as we were told this morning, to getting it done. I'm amazed, impressed, and actually very happy that the private sector was invited at this stage to a consultative workshop. It also removes the dialogue we have with government, civil society, and donors away from transaction. I'm sure a lot of us walk into your offices and we have a number written on our forehead in terms of how much do we want to sell to you. Or at least that is the assumption. By inviting us early in the conversation, what you have done is invited us to partner with you on a journey. And the number will be achieved at some point, I'm sure. But we are better able to respond. We are better able to provide solutions, having spent a lot of time thinking through the challenges and issues that you're going through. So as opposed to getting a document where we read and hopefully understand what the challenges of a country are and respond to that, we embark on a journey. And for that, I think I'll applaud the Honorable Minister and the whole of the government. Now, in terms of SAP's response to what we have heard in the last 2 days, we've come up with a simple triangle. This, we are hoping, is a partnership model that addresses the delicate stage we are going into. We're going into a stage where, again, the conversation has taken place, some planning needs to be done, but this concept has to get implemented at some point. So that gray area between where we are now and where implementation begins, SAP would like to partner with the government of Rwanda in a number of ways. One is to share. When I say share, we have heard here of many different models. There's no one size that fits all, but we actually have many examples globally of things that have been done that are not exactly the same, but from which we can borrow. And from that, hopefully not reinvent the wheel on everything. So in terms of our knowledge, in terms of our methodology, in terms of our access to either other governments, other corporations, we actually put that at the disposal of the government of Rwanda. The second thing is to connect. We have an amazing network of partners. I'm also hoping that some of the private sector that is here and has attended here, we will be able to connect to provide Smart Rwanda an integrated solution, as opposed to me walking into your office and selling you software. I'm coming to talk to you about a complete solution that addresses a particular objective of Smart Rwanda. So we are hoping we'll not only connect with the civil society here, the different donors who are here, but also the private sector that's represented here and that has fully understood, so that we actually walk into the office of Smart Rwanda or the government of Rwanda with solutions as opposed to products. Support. As I mentioned, the audacity of this program should be hailed. Sebastian Wu just now spoke about evangelism, and this is what I'm talking about. As a global organization, we're big and we have reach. And in terms of speaking about this and being evangelists and removing the conversation out of this room, out of Rwanda, and across Africa, Europe, and the US, where we have huge presence. We have influence, we have, as I said, presence, and we'll put that at the disposal of the Rwanda government. Speaking about this outside this room, we'll get more supporters for this project, not only to understand it, but to also cheer it on and make it a reality. In terms of educate, I think I'll go on to the next slide where I'll speak more about educate. SAP has just launched what we call Skills for Africa. One of the cross-cutting issues we have been hearing here is the skills gap. Now, SAP for Africa has been piloted in Kenya. The particular program we are adopting in Kenya is specific to Kenya's needs and the gap we have identified there. A short description of it, basically the skills we are looking to develop are from top talent, if I could just take one more minute, is people who are graduating out of the university, taking the best of them and improving their employability by skilling them, either certifying them in software development, engineering, certifying them with SAP skills, and completing that cycle by guaranteeing them employment at the end of the day. So that is the model that works for Kenya. We need to, as SAP, sit with the government of Rwanda and see how that partnership arrangement would work. Our commitment to Kenya today is that every year we will certify 100 students for a period of 3 to 5 years. That was our initial commitment. So we need to sit with the government of Rwanda and determine where the skills gap is. And it might be just working with the software engineers that are currently here. It might be working with K-Lab. It might be a completely different model. But we need to understand from the government of Rwanda how we can partner with you in actually sorting out the skills gap. And for us, that low-hanging fruit, I think, is the one we will pick. Thank you.
I'll speak on behalf of Visa, but also in my capacity as a Rwandan involved in, who is heavily enthusiastic about the ICT sector. For Visa, we entered a partnership with the government of Rwanda in December of 2011. And the goal of that partnership is to fast-track the electronification of Rwanda's economy. As you may know, Visa is mainly known for cards, but really at the helm we are a technology company that focuses on payment solutions that aim to be the best way to pay and be paid. And for Rwanda, that model usually doesn't, it wouldn't apply here because Visa's business generally has been targeting the top of the pyramid, if I could speak in economic terms. So what we've come to do is to look at Rwanda, study in partnership with government, and see how we can make the best way to pay and be paid a reality across the economic pyramid. Starting with the base of the pyramid and going up where we already are. So in that partnership, we focused on capacity building, where we've gone to every university, we've gone to every district with a financial literacy show that really aims to educate through entertainment citizens about saving, budgeting, etc., as far as financial management is concerned. And we felt like this was very important to set the foundation of people, one, knowing about financial services, how they can access them, etc. And as we then go to implement our solutions for the base of the pyramid, we will find a citizenry that knows about financial services and can now have access to it through some of the solutions that we are bringing to Rwanda. In addition to that, we work with the industry, we train banks, we bring subject matter experts in the market to come and really share knowledge of what we know and how we can best help our clients, the banks, to best serve Rwandans. In addition to that, we have worked with government in laying the foundations for electronic payments. That started with the national net settlement, which may seem as too much science for you, but it really enables for all transactions in Rwanda to happen in Rwandan francs right here in the country, as opposed to what it was before in foreign currency offshore. And then the last of that partnership is innovation, and that's where we are working on a mobile solution, as I mentioned, that is going to be helping the entire economic base, particularly the underbanked and underserved. So in listening to the conversation here today, the things that resonated with me that were cross-cutting was information and access. Many people were saying access to information or putting information in a bucket, sending that information out there. And then I think one of the groups mentioned awareness. I may be biased because I was sitting there as we were talking about it. But when it comes to awareness, I think awareness starts with us. I'm now going to switch on my hat as a Rwandan. I'm wondering how many in this room are aware that we have a national ICT sector plan? By show of hands. Okay, and how many of you have read it? Less hands. So the journey of ICT in Rwanda started really in 2000 when we started our goal to become a knowledge-based economy. And we have had plans and we've had several projects that have been implemented. A lot of those solutions were presented here today as solutions, as new solutions. And in my mind, I was thinking, those are not really new solutions. And a lot of the problems, if not all, were also presented as problem statements. But really, when I think about where we've come from 2000 to today, these are not new problems. And in essence, the solutions are not quite new. So my challenge is, my question is, how can we make Rwanda smarter if we're not aware, if we're not aware of the solutions that we already have implemented, the plans that we have that we're already implementing, isn't it then better for a smarter Rwanda to become aware of what has been done so far and maybe marry it with some of the new things or maybe not so new things that have come out of this meeting? And it's a challenge for both Rwandans and the international partners. Thank you.
There is 2 points I would like to address, and one is more historical, well, very short history, and the other is actually on today's and the future. And this cut across all the presentation is a common theme. First is about access, and Lucy has just mentioned it. If those that were here in 2005, 4, 5, 6, in Rwanda, you could, to actually just sync your email, you will wait. Today, you can stream HD movie live without a problem. In 2005-6, it cost 2,500 more times a single meg than the US. Today, we cut down to less than a few hundred. With the deal that the government of Rwanda signed with Korea Telecom, within 3 years, that will be cut to less than 100. Now, what does it do to the private sector? I always ask myself why we haven't seen really beyond the telcos, big young enterprise that grow to become either global and all that. There is some structural problem. And as in many nations, structural issue at the micro level, it's very difficult for the private sector to address it. And I think we need to thank the government of Rwanda for addressing it. Because otherwise, this private sector that the government of Rwanda really want the private sector to take the lead, it would have not been possible. Now, this is, I think, the key fact that is going to enable the growth of the ICT private sector beyond the usual, because now it's been the big telco with huge investment. Now, with this address, now we go back onto the information. And that's where I think it's the trickiest. Whether it's in developing nation or in Rwanda, we've seen that really it is not the company with the biggest investment that have the biggest success. and we still story where there is YouTube, Google, and other, and in Kenya, M-Pesa and all that. So one of the things is how do we present, and the challenge we have, now that access is being democratized, it means that people at the bottom of the pyramid with time can more afford it. We created a bigger business, targeted people. But also that means we can export. Now, how do we target them? And this is one of the project we did with the help of the Ministry of ICT, the RDB and CMU and the Japan Corporation. We created an innovation lab. An innovation lab that we created was to target young people in ICT and that have idea how they're going to solve business issue, both of the citizen, the business, and other industry. Now, what do they do there? They come together, we create an environment where they collaborate, we invite, we bring mentors, we bring business executive, we bring university, and they collaborate to come up with innovation that are going to address our local need, but also international need. And the exciting part in this time, I'll give you a simple example. 5 years ago, in order for you to have an ISP, you needed a huge investment. Today, because of the investment of the government of Rwanda, basically it's been cut by at least 100. But now, in 3 to 5 years, what's going to happen, connectivity will not be where you can differentiate yourself. So you need to build value-added service. But for us to go from where access was so expensive to where we're going to differentiate our service in value-added service, really without the strong investment and commitment of the government, it would have been impossible. So now today what we're going to see is now, since we enable young people to bring innovation, they're going to come with the innovation. 5 years ago, it will be very, very difficult. Some example of local company, despite the huge challenge, have been able to actually bring innovation. It's igie.com. It's also a young Rwandan entrepreneur called Jeff Gasana. Is, I think, the only startup that was able to raise $5 million to expand countrywide, Africa-wide. And what you're going to see in the next 5 years, I think it's an explosion of innovation because access is being democratized. And this is the key aspect that we should not forget. So in the private sector, I think the next few years are going to be amazing. And actually, you will see a real ICT private sector develop and flourish. Thank you.
So it sounds like I'm going to be the last one, yeah? So I'm going to make it short, especially since I'm going to get a chance to see most of you and talk to you, and a little plug that I'm going to do. So we're going to host a cocktail for the HP sponsored cocktail. So my name is Masfin Makonnen. I'm actually a native from Ethiopia, grew up in the US, and 7 years ago made the right decision to actually come back. Okay, so my responsibility is across 40 countries, managing director and general manager, and one of those countries happens to be Rwanda. And since it's really my first time addressing you, really I would like to say, Honorable Minister and rest of everybody here, really congratulations in this amazingly well-run, most interactive session that I've ever attended. I've been to so many sessions. It seems to be a one-way, and this was quite impressive in how much of it was interactive, and it was actually result-driven, where at the end, actually, some results are going to come out that could be useful. So I represent a company called Hewlett-Packard. Among so many folks here, it sounds like I'm a bit of a dinosaur, yeah? 70 years old. Have I actually learned with all the changes that are going on? And I'm going to tell you, I didn't learn up front. This is really being quite honest. It took me a while to actually realize the world was actually changing pretty fast, and all the accomplishment that HP has done for quite so long were not going to be good enough for this new world. Okay? So we had to adapt, and we did adapt. Yeah? We'll talk a little bit about this new strategy. We call it the new style of IT later on. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but at least I'd like to share some things that I've actually realized listening to some of the solutions, some of the problems that were stated out here. So you definitely have it right through and through. Mobility is in. Okay? It took us a while to figure it out and have a toy that we should have had a long time ago. And it's important because this is really what's going to make a difference for Africa and just closing the gap, a gap that's been going on for quite a while. And in this new style of IT, this is really where all the smart, I've seen some of the presentation around smart Kigali, smart infrastructure, where it's already clear, everybody's thinking about how do we use this readily available mobility to actually start impacting the changes that we would like. So it's good that mobility is here, but we've got to be very careful, yeah? We don't want it to be just for play, okay? So if there's no substance behind it to help the transformation, what's going to happen is these gadgets end up being things that we use to play with, okay? So what we have to remember is we don't want to play in the 21st century, but just go to work in the 20th or study in the 20th and so forth, right? So we need to find a way to actually change these mobile devices into something that actually is going to be impactful for this transformation we're all looking forward to. And how these mobile devices become actually transformational is what we lovingly know cloud computing, okay? And cloud computing is a reality, it's here. Somebody told me that Africa is too hot and it rarely rains, so don't think about the cloud there. I don't agree. Yeah? And the reason why I'm saying that is I've been in this business for 19 years. It is trillions of dollars trouble for the advanced world trying to transform itself into this cloud. Trillions of dollars of legacy investments that they have to deal with. We've got to be careful not to go into that trap, yeah? So every time we decide today, what is it that we're going to use, we have to start thinking cloud first, yeah? Maybe today everything may not be able to be ready for the cloud, but a hybrid cloud is the best way to go at it. Why? There's a lot of talk about public and private collaboration. That's really how that whole concept of cloud has started, right? How do we actually make a decision as to whether or not some of the services we consume them in a more private way, with our own data centers, our own little setups, and then how those services that actually scale very well and actually bring down the cost when they're used across multiple users, how do we actually put that into the public cloud? Rwanda is actually really, this is my first time here, and I'm just wondering how is it when I'm on my 4th passport with so many stamps across multiple African countries that I just haven't stopped here first, right? Because this is really where the first time I'm seeing an actual wake-up call that has happened between the government and the private industry to understand that ICT really is a huge enabler for all this transformation we've been talking about for the last 13 years in Africa. Yeah? So in this cloud, it's got to be connected in Rwanda. It's got to be hosted in Rwanda. It's got to be innovated and run by Rwandans, right? When somebody tells me when they think cloud, if they're thinking Amazon, sorry, that's not what I'm talking about. If they're thinking Facebook, sorry, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a cloud that actually is hosted on this incredibly well-built and full of bandwidth that's rarely found in most African countries, okay? So again, we'll get a chance to talk a little bit more about that. Today we're well represented by HP here. We have the lead of HP Software, Naveen, who's with me, and his team. There's also Christopher Makua, who's the managing director for this central region of Africa. So really HP is really looking at Africa slightly different. In the last probably 24 months, we've opened 10 new offices We're really interested to come in and start sitting down and listening. I love the comment that I just heard where Rwanda's been talking, but everybody's wondering if anybody has been listening. So we need to change that. And to kind of paraphrase my favorite president, I'll say, yes, you can. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think the panelists have cemented what we've been discussing here, and we have really real opportunities to bring some of those solutions into reality, but Lucy also pointed that we need to create more awareness about what has been achieved and what is there. I think we need to have to improve in communicating, yeah, because it's very important. A lot of things are being done, and although the results are there, unless they are properly communicated, people will not be able to know what is done. But what we take away from the last session is, with the broadband and the cloud, we actually have ingredient for innovation. We have ingredient for new solutions to be shared, and shared across. It's no longer silos, but it can be shared across different sectors of this economy. And skill development is a low-hanging fruit. We need to capitalize on that. And also there are different ways now today of delivering this project. I would have loved to have a little bit more interaction, and I was actually even thinking to allow some few questions from the audience, but unfortunately we are running out of time. So we're going to enter into the next session. We'll have also more time to interact with the different panelists. Few minutes when we have started also, we've started the cocktail. So we're going to enter in the last session. Help me to recognize again our panelists for the great insights and all the contributions and their commitment to make Smart Rwanda a reality. We're going to enter to the last session, and we're going to invite Honourable Minister to come on stage, and also we would like also to invite Caroline Turk and Samia, and His Excellency the Ambassador of Japan. I'll hand over to Patrick for the rest. Thank you.
Let's do another round of applause for all the people that have made such an interesting day. Great insights as we go towards the close. Before we do that, I'll ask you to do something that is not very unusual, but I'll tell you what it is once all of you stand up. Let's all stand. I've been sitting for a couple of hours. I figured for such a close that we're going to, we need to stretch a little bit, make sure we're all awake. Take a deep breath, and then we take our seats as we... Thank you very much. Thank you. Just want to make sure that we're all fully awake. Okay. Before we invite our principals to do the closing session, I just wanted to say what an incredible 2 days. Wouldn't you agree? Yes, I think it was an incredible 2 days. I'd like to congratulate all of you who have been able to sit in here until, I think it's now 5:30. I'm moving towards 6 p.m. on the second day of this conference. Will you clap for yourselves for having been able to do that? So we're going to invite the people upstage to help us with the closing. I think I'll change the order a little bit, and I'll start by inviting Samia, to start us off as we do the closing. And after that, I will invite His Excellency Ambassador from Japan. I'll ask them to come as we go along. And then World Bank Country Manager, and finally the Minister of ICT to close us off. Samia, shall we start? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patrick. I have to say I'm so honored and humbled and energized by these 2 days. You all said it, and I've been in many of these workshops. I have never been in 2 days with people who, for many, didn't know one another and sat in 10 groups in the same room and came up with problems and solutions that can be done within 6 to 9 months. Minister, this is excellent news. You have here really very good ideas. And I think we want, beyond these 2 days, to continue this partnership around good ideas, but also implementation. What I take out from this is actually a nice picture, which is the Smart Rwanda house. I wish we had it here, which for me symbolizes a little bit the future that we're looking for. And a lot of this future exists already. It's a matter of continuing the building. And the second thing I take home is the minister's blog. I don't know if you've read Minister Phil's blog, but it's amazing, and he's getting great responses and feedback. And this reminds us of the importance of communication. Because in my view, and I think I know fairly well Rwanda ICT sector, we've been cooperating with a lot of trust with the government. I think a lot of things have been done, but perhaps not very well communicated to the common public in language that everybody understands. And I would encourage us to, as much as possible, socialize all these very technical terms, because you all said it. It's not about ICT. It's about people. It's about us. It's about our life today in 2013, which is obviously very different from many years ago. So it's about life, not about technology, is what I take away. What I also learned a lot from today is the experience of 5 other African nations here who shared their knowledge, who learned from Rwanda, who appealed to all of us to be better at knowledge sharing, to not increase these silos that sometimes, without doing that on purpose, we help create, and to really share knowledge better. And for me, I have one possible solution, and it's open data. Truly, the more we open up what we have, the more we share the information that we possess, the better the world will be and the less segmentation will happen. So it's really an appeal, if you will, around that. And to close this, I don't want to take too much of your time. In terms of the World Bank ICT program in the Africa region, you've heard a lot from a lot of our clients here. And truly, in terms of ICT policies, ICT solution, quick win, there's a lot we can do together. And so that this doesn't stay around nice, polite interchange around a 2-day workshop with incredibly smart people that you all are. I would really like to offer on my behalf and that of my team here that we would really like to continue the knowledge partnership, Minister Phil, and as much as possible support Rwanda and our other African clients here in their valiant and courageous efforts to really reduce poverty by focusing a little bit on ICT for development. So that's my contribution, and thank you very much, Patrick, for inviting me.
Yes, thank you very much, Samia. Samia is the acting regional coordinator for Africa and the lead ICT policy specialist for the World Bank. Thank you very much for sharing your insights. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I'd like to invite His Excellency Kazuya Ogawa, Ambassador of Japan. Your Excellency, you're welcome.
So can I use this podium?
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Well, His Excellency Jean-Philibert Nsingiana, Minister of Youth and ICT, and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to be present in this closing session at Smart Rwanda Days. I'm delighted to see many governance officials, international experts, people from civil society, and private sector and the development partners in this 2 days conference in order to share a vision of Smart Rwanda and good practice of smart development in different countries, also discuss smart solution to problems in this country. Your presence is evidence of a high interest in and enthusiasm for information and communication technologies as smart solutions, which I believe will lead Rwanda to effectively achieve its development goals and economic growth. Japan is one of the important partners which have supported ICT sector in this country. We assisted in drafting National ICT Strategic and Action Plan Phase 3, which is fundamental to not only activities in ICT's sector, but also all activities through ICTs. Also, K-Lab is another good example of our assistance. Mr. Yamanaka, expert of the JICA in ICT, contributed to the drafting of Nikki 3 and also launched the idea to create this interactive space in the center of Kigali. K-Lab, which stands for Knowledge Lab, was established to provide open technology space for students, fresh graduates, entrepreneurs, and innovators who work on their idea and project to turn them into valuable business models. I visited several weeks ago K-Lab, and I myself witnessed that many students and young business persons were working with computers and engaging in heated discussion. At K-Lab, people can be provided with both technical and business assistance by experienced mentors. In the beginning of this month, the 5th Tokyo International Conference on African Development, we call it TICAD 5, was held in Yokohama in Japan. I heard a symposium under the theme of ICT innovation with collaboration between Rwanda and Japan was a huge success at official side events of TICAD 5. This symposium focused only Rwanda among African countries because Rwanda is considered as one of the most innovative countries in ICT in African continent. To this symposium, His Excellency Nsengiana, Minister of Youth and ICT, sent a video message, and 2 delegates from Rwandan Chambers of Commerce assisted. Thank you very much for contribution of Your Excellency. More than 100 people participated and discussion and very much animated. This symposium was organized by Kobe Institute of Computing with the support of JICA and JETRO. It would not be an exaggeration to say that when it comes to Rwanda, not only gorilla or coffee, but also ICT comes up to people's mind. At the TICAD 5, Japan expressed its support to science and technology since we understand promoting knowledge infrastructure enables innovation and boosts productivity. In this country, Japan continues strengthening ICT human resource development mainly through Tumba Technology College, where ICT is one of the 3 main departments. Although I am not an expert in this domain, I have the impression that the ICT can be applied in every field of human life. And those who gain the technology of application can not only improve their lifestyle, but also gain the market and lead the market. In concluding my remarks, I understand that during today's conference, you all participants had very fruitful discussions, and I commended the efforts made by both Rwandan government and the World Bank for the success of this forum. It is my sincere wish that participants to this conference will create smart solutions under the shared vision for Smart Rwanda and make those solutions a reality. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite Caroline Tack, the World Bank Country Manager for Rwanda. She has been with us from the beginning. And once again, I'd like to appreciate the co-partnership between the World Bank and the government of Rwanda in making Smart Rwanda Days happen. And of course, this is only the beginning. I think the greater partnership lies in the future. Thank you very much. Speak to us.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for the introduction. Honourable Minister, Her Excellency Japanese Ambassador, it's a great privilege to come back here at the end of the conference and hear the summaries. We've just listened to, well, perhaps 15 summaries and different people's takes on what they've learnt from this workshop. I'm not going to try and summarize the summarizers and drive you yet further away from your glass of wine, but let me just give you one final thought, perhaps. One of the themes that resonated, I think, across many of the summaries and takeaways that we've had was around the area of both results and about the human-centeredness of what you've been talking about. And that made me think, what is it? What kind of results are we looking for? What kind of human-centered results are we looking for? If we come back in 5 years' time, what does a smart girl in Rwanda look like? Well, a smart girl looks to me like a girl who is able to use modern technology in a way that empowers her, in a way that gives her the information that she needs and gives her the instruments she needs to be able to have control over her life and be able to enter the labour market on her own terms with skills and education. I can see somebody cheering back there. What does a smart farmer look like if we come back in 10 years' time? It's a farmer that is empowered by the knowledge that information and the devices around us offers him. It's an agriculture sector a smart agriculture sector is one that's populated with smart farmers, smart traders, smart agricultural extension officers, all harnessing technology to be able to achieve their maximum with minimum resources. And so I hope as we go forwards from this conference, we don't lose sight of the smart farmer, we don't lose sight of the smart girl, we don't lose sight of the smart citizen, which is really how I think of the human element of smart government, that we keep these forefront in our mind as we go forwards. Now, I just want to say a massive thank you to a number of people here. Minister Senginyama, I think you've done an absolutely tremendous job. I think you should be recognized for your thought leadership and for your energy and your enthusiasm that has propelled this workshop forwards. I would really want to congratulate you on that. Many thanks. Patrick and the Rwanda Development Board, you've been a magnificent MC. I have to say you must be exhausted and looking forward to your glass of wine, but thank you very much for your work and the work of the RDB. I want to acknowledge the inputs of the international experts who've come from far and wide to provide us with learning from the north, from the south, from a whole range of continents around the globe, possibly all continents. I'm haven't counted. But your input has been so valuable and has brought ideas and creativity and taken us outside our normal boxes and enabled us to glimpse some of the possibilities that lie beyond the world that we are currently inhabiting. So thank you very much for your inputs. To colleagues from other African countries, thank you very much for your very valuable inputs, perhaps some of the most valuable inputs. We've had participation from Nigeria, Ghana, Uganda, Kenya, Ethiopia. I'm probably forgetting some countries, and this has provided the basis for a very, very fruitful platform for future engagement and networking. Please don't lose touch with each other. Please stay engaged and stay connected. My goodness, that should be easy enough in the modern world. So please carry on helping each other as we go forwards. And of course, I want to thank the World Bank team for the work that they've put in the logistics and organising this very successful event. So going forwards, I see a lot of energy. I see a lot of ideas. I think I've seen quite a few donors in the room, Minister, who may have some resources. I see the need to harness the power of partnerships, of leveraging the private sector, not just the supply side, not just the IT private sector guys, but also the demand side, the other industries that use ICT as part of delivering their goods and services to their consumers. I wish you well in taking this forward, Minister. We look forward to continuing our conversation with you, and I wish everybody very, very good luck in generating real substance out of the ideas that have been discussed over the past few days. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much for those insightful and kind words as well. We really appreciate your support in this. Before I invite the Minister, who's going to do the closing remarks. After he has spoken, I'm not allowed to say any other word after him. So whatever I need to say it now. Just wanted to say a few things. The first one is a great thank you for the World Bank team. You have been incredible. And putting all of this together, working with LDB, the Minister of ICT. So shall we clap for the World Bank team? Really, really incredible commitment and hard work. We really appreciate mobilizing all the international speakers we've had here. We really appreciate that. The second thing I wanted to say is Rwanda has been blessed to have a minister who is both youthful and tech savvy. And I think he embodies all the things we have seen in this room for the last 2 days. Great energy, passion, great ideas. And so as we get towards the close of this conference, I have no doubt that with the Minister's leadership and the commitment we have seen across this room from the private sector, development partners, that we shall definitely succeed and maybe outdo ourselves as we embark on this Smart Rwanda initiative. The final thing I wanted to say is after the Minister's closing remarks, we'll have a cocktail outside in the foyer hosted by HP. And so, as I said, I'll not say anything after the Minister. So at the end, let's network, let's interact, and let's enjoy the glass of wine outside, hosted by HP. On that note, Honorable Minister, shall you deliver to us your closing remarks?
Let me prove that maybe still youthful by jumping here. Your Excellency, the Ambassador, Kerry, Country Manager, World Bank, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we've had a fantastic 2 days. The opening yesterday by the Minister of Finance, who, by the way, sent his regard to you. He's very busy closing the budget preparation. He's so consumed with his entire team. He would have loved to be with us this evening, but he couldn't. But he entrusts me to convey his best regards and gratitude for all joining us and being part of this dream the Smart Rwanda and Smart Africa dream. I've been reminded many times that I'm the last guy standing between you and your glass of wine. Every previous speaker said it, so I will not be long, because really mine is to thank you. If I could thank each of you, look into your eyes and personally hug you and thank you for making it to the last minute of this two-day workshop, because it makes all the difference. In the morning we said that the most committed are the ones who stayed, but I know that there are people who are not with us right now just because of their work and other commitments, probably be above their control. But anybody who's made it here, who's probably not here with us now, but who was with us yesterday, those people who were online, and those who wish us well, wherever they are, those who have commented on the blogs, who've been tweeting about this event, and who believe in a smart world, a smart Africa and a smart Rwanda, and in fact a smart village. I say thank you, and I'm tempted to thank those who traveled the most miles, but it's so difficult to tell. I'd like to really thank those who flew in from our neighboring countries, Uganda, Kenya, Ethiopia. You are looking into my eyes. There are people who came from Ghana, Zimbabwe, and I'm drawing circles around Rwanda to see which country I catch. South Africa. I think I'm now in Europe. I reach Netherlands, and then I go to Moldova. I think Japan and US first, United States, before I can reach Japan and Australia. I mean, we are so blessed to have you all here. I hope that we will stay in touch and take this vision and dream forward. I will not attempt to say anything, inspirational. But I was at a forum last month, and somebody said, in Africa is different from the rest of the world. He said, when there is a product launch, normally people have been working very hard towards the deadline, lots of things to do, and the same applies to this workshop: preparations, invitations, logistics, papers, speakers, bios, printing, branding, and so on. And then finally the D-Day arrives, and then boom, the launch is there. And after the launch, people go out and relax. They think that they have arrived. He said that's Africa. But then he said San Francisco is different. They say the launch marks the actual date of the beginning of the real work. So I think somebody talked about smart communication. I think that's one of the probably not so wrong kind of picture that the rest of the world might have about Africa, but it's something that we must change, both in the way we communicate and the way we actually go about our business. I'd like to see this day not at the end of a very intensive planning work, but as the beginning of the actual work. I'd like to see the private sector, the people who got here for the first time, coming here more often. Those who came here for the first time, would like to see you coming more. Bring your ideas, bring solutions. I'd like to see the donors carry. It's like the donors, those who've been supporting our sector, coming back more and more with ideas. I've already received a few emails. I mean, the development partners, I can name a few who already are interested in some of the smart stuff there, who are willing to pursue this communication. And as we go along, there is another milestone. I told you this morning, I invited you to join us for the Transform Africa conference. Let's see where we are. When all this started, in November. I remember the very place where I was standing and the very people were together. Didier was one of them. And then it was followed by a few Skype calls with Oleg and Samia and Aline and Jeff there and Sebastian at some point. Nobody really believed that we were on the brink of something of this magnitude. This co-creation process is something that we were all experimenting for the first time. We've written plans, strategic plans, and so on, but it's a unique way of thinking and planning. And then one of the things that came out clear here is we want to move ahead in the lean startup approach. Is some other jargon that I'm learning as well. I've learned, I missed the restitution session for the solutions, but you told me that you've designed solutions which can be delivered within a period of 6 months and between 6 months and 9 months. We are committed to actually go ahead and implement those solutions. We know that we have the resources within the different entities and constituents, and we are committed to bring everything together, as you've suggested, to really deliver on the expectations of the people who've been watching us on TV, who are wondering what Smart Girls is, Smart Kigali. I'd like to really thank Carrie for bringing us back to what we are here for. What we are saying needs to translate ultimately into a difference in at least one person's life. And if we are lucky, let's touch everyone in this country, and let's try to touch everyone in this world. I think we can be so ambitious to believe in our potential to actually make that difference. And as I go to the conclusion, I was really very blessed to catch the private sector session here. My biggest fear, my biggest worry, as we started this yesterday, was that the private sector people will see this as just another talk show and blah, 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 blah of the bureaucrats and development partners, just going about their business as usual of conferences and so on. But what I was able to hear is the private sector actually wants to be part of this process. You see the value, both in terms of profitable businesses, but also in terms of making differences in people's lives. And I wouldn't have been more happier than this. So a big round of applause. I'd like the private sector guys to just do this and let the rest of the world clap for you. I've seen the academia people, they tend to sit at the back. They are so modest. I see Bruce, who's remained out there. Are you still here, Bruce? I've seen people from the National University of Rwanda, from KIST. Can we, by a show of hands, see who's from the academia here? Yeah. A round of applause for the academia people. Now, we talked about PPP. And then we realized that we forgot another P, which is partners, or non-for-profit, or civil society. It's so wide. I don't know how to categorize. But can we see from a show of hands who comes from the civil society here? Civil society people? Hey, don't be shy. Okay, let's have a round of applause for the civil society. Okay, let me request another, a round of applause for the private, did I ask for the private sector? No? Yes? No, a show of hand. We didn't see who you are, where you are, and actually whether you are. Yeah, absolutely. Again, development partners. Development partners. Which category did I forget? Government. Okay, government. So today marks the beginning of another jump in this Smart Rwanda journey. My last will be a call to action. Let's walk the talk and let's start walking downstairs to have a glass of wine. Thank you. I should have said thank you to Carrie. Carrie, thank you for all your leadership, all your support. We wouldn't be here without you. Thank you. Thank you, Carrie.
Even if I feel very old when I go there. Fantastic. No, it's a lovely place. I love it. And it's sort of nice to train. But I do feel quite old. Yes. Yeah. No, I would agree. And so you're going to continue
Mic check, mic.
So, we've just come to the end of this Smart Rwanda days. Fantastic 2 days where we had a lot of new ideas and of confidence in the vision that is being put out which called the transformation agenda. So for us in Rwanda, we want to use this opportunity to get inputs and ideas on how we can start our own economic development to really move forward fast using ICT. But what we were told by participants, this is a real visionary agenda. And they'd like also to experiment something like this in their own countries, able to dream together about a smart Africa. Africa which is confident in itself, with the ability to find a solution to its own problems, and an Africa which is able to become an active producer and consumer of ICTs, not just a passive consumer of new technologies. We've talked about smart villages. What does it really mean to change the lives of people in our villages in the different parts of the country and in the continent? We talk about smart cities. What kind of citizen do we want to see? What kind of tools? What kind of information? What kind of knowledge is necessary to turn somebody into a smart citizen, into a smart business? We've actually talked about smart cards. We think that ICTs present an opportunity to empower our women in Africa, economically, socially, democratically or politically. So we are really looking at different ways that these new technologies that we have already and we're still building can really impact people's lives. So we are really grateful for the high quality audience we had. We are grateful for the private sector participation, which was massive, both from Rwanda and from the region and beyond. We've had academia, we had development partners, the civil society, and we've been able to really create the right mix of stakeholders to take these ideas forward. So we leave this place with clear commitments, with very concrete plans and projects. We said anything coming from there should be able to be implemented in a period of time between 6 months and 12 months and 9 months. So we are really not talking about those projects that will be here for a long time but never come to see in your lifetime. So I'd like to thank all our partners for joining us, and on our side we are just committed to work.
ngwino Serena muri etage ya kabiri muri sani niko amafoto reka soke